Good evening. Good evening and welcome to the joint meeting of the Dayton Board of Selectmen with the Board of Health, Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022. It is 6 p.m. We are located in the Prime Time Building at 1059 Somerset Avenue. This agenda is subject to revisions, additions prior to the meeting, and I believe this meeting will be recorded.
Yes.
At this time, I would like to call the order for the Board of Selectmen. Mr. Karen?
Here.
Mr. Pacheco?
Present. Chairman
Leonard Hall is also present. Could we stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Davey, I'll turn the meeting over to you.
Okay. Board of Health, joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen, Wednesday, November 2nd. I'd like to call to order at this 6:03. And have a roll call. Hello. And Barbara Katravia. Would you like to proceed?
So, on the agenda for this evening is the Health Department restructuring efforts. Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
would you wish to start the discussion in regards to the animal welfare offer?
Yes. So when we met last and went through the grid or the matrix that was provided by the Board of Health, we went through the boxes and we talked about the animal welfare functions that have historically been in part through the Board of Health. We also talked about emergency preparedness as well. When we left as a takeaway, one of the things that we planned when we left was at this meeting to have the ACO animal inspector along with the chief of police. We're here at this meeting to discuss really the delineation of the responsibilities especially on the new contract for the ACO animal inspector in the accompanying job descriptions within the contract. We also with regards to the fire chief, we talked about the separation of the emergency preparedness role from the Board of Health. And the functions that have historically been performed by the Emergency Prep Committee. So those are the things that really drive us here, bring us here this evening. With regards to animal welfare, one of the things in the updated job description process for the ACO and animal inspector, we tried to really clean up a lot of the unclear expectations that have always really existed in terms of who does the ACO report to, what department, and department head is responsible for providing the ACO and animals. So in the animal inspector, the support that she needs. So we tried to clean that up, and streamline all of that through the chief of police, and I think we did that very, very successfully. But there are two areas, namely in terms of the bond, in terms of the local bond permit, in the local stable permit processes. Which we really need to flesh out, because those two processes still have some overlap between the functions of the Board of Health, in the permits actually reference an annual inspection process by the ACO. but yeah, I'm sorry, the animal inspector. So, yeah, the animal inspector has a bond book, that is actually like submitted, on a regular basis to the Department of to the Department of Agricultural Resources, so that is where all the information goes. So like one of the questions, really that I have tonight, so is do we need, so the local bond and stable permit processes, and if so, how does that operate here in 2022 between the animal inspector and the board of health? So like, and that's what I really wanted to throw out there, like further discussion, so we can all be on the same page about it.
Chief Code, any questions?
Not at this time, no.
Mr.
I don't have any questions other than, is it a possibility that they answer to both?
We tried to clean that up through the process, that we just went through the updated job descriptions. We tried that, and that process
Didn't work.
it didn't work at all. And it created a lot of, expectations and perceptions that, shouldn't have been part of the, environment.
Okay.
I do have a few questions. These stable permit applications and the bond permits application, who fills these out?
The owners fill them out and turn them into, right now, the Board of Health. And then I'm
And-
supposed to go out and inspect before there is a permit going out.
Now, according to mass law, who usually is responsible for the permitting process?
There is no requirement for a barn permit or a stable permit under mass law.
There is no.
There is not. There is a provision that the animal inspector has to go out once a year to a barn or a stable and inspect. That's the only thing that's there. I do believe our town has a regulation that says we have to have a barn permit. And I'm assuming a stable permit because that was handled before I even came on.
So since there's an application, I would imagine that there is a permit.
Well, I know there was always an application, but I don't know if it's in our bylaw that says they have to have a stable permit. It's just always been there. I asked for the barn permits because there are people out there that have animals that need to be inspected. And especially since bird flu, the state was coming down on us, trying to get all those people that have chickens that think they just inspected too, because they need to know and we need to know where they are. And nobody sees that barn permit or that barn book except for myself and the state. Nobody else can look at that book. So what they want is just data, if we have a break of bird flu or anything, that they know where the farms are and what's there, so we know how to get them away from where, or shut them down, depending on what it is.
So the only real involvement that the Board of Health would have would be if there was a trans-species transmission of a virus.
Yes,
These permits were, applications, where are they kept at the Board of Health?
at the Board of Health right now. And I don't have a problem with not having a barn permit per se, but I do feel strongly about a stable permit, because your stables in this town board animals and they teach lessons, and they have to be held accountable. And I think they need to be, so we know where they are, and that they can be checked more regularly and that kind of stuff. I think they need to have, whether it's a commercial permit or something, but they need to have something instead of just letting them go without being held accountable to the town.
Now, currently, if Mr. Aguirre or you notice in your inspections a Board of Health issue, you refer it to the Board of Health, is that correct? Or-
Typically, yes.
Typically, but it would depend on what you're thinking as a Board of Health, because if I find something wrong in a stable or a barn, I'm supposed to call MDAR right away. I'm not even supposed to deal with the local board of health, I'm supposed to call MDR.
So they would contact the Board of Health?
No, they would come down. They would come down and deal with it. They send out their inspectors and their people down. We've had them down here a couple of times for other things. They came down directly.
Regarding the applications, if we went a different route, would the chief have a problem maintaining these?
Applications for a barn permit?
As part of the process?
Well, what hat is she wearing at that time? I'm responsible for animal control and overseeing that portion of her responsibilities. And this is my ignorance, because I'm learning a lot tonight, but how would a permit be under my purview if it's gonna be issued by the Board of Health? Or the animal inspector?
Yeah, could the permit itself be issued by the animal inspector? So just as one person?
Which doesn't fall under you right now. That's the point.
Right now, it doesn't fall under the same.
So, but that's the, sorry.
Yeah,
Under
animal
the state
inspector,
regs, who does it fall under?
under the state regs, the state.
Okay.
I answer to the state.
And you answer to the state.
I answer for rabies,
Yep.
rabies and for the barn permits, I answer to the state.
So even if there was a cross-species transmission,
I
you would still report to the state?
I would report to the state, and then the state, I'm assuming would get in touch with our local board of health, with something they needed to put out there. But yes, I would contact the state, because that's who I
Mr. Mullin?
Yeah, I mean, I think this process, I mean, like, it really, it seems kind of like duplicative to me. So, and then, I mean, it's actually, it has a very real potential. So like, we at the local level would be interfering really with what would be like a state function, through the Department of Agricultural Resources.
Jim, I have a question then. So when we had the bird flu,
Yes,
you get notified or does the Board of Health get notified first? You get notified.
I do. And still do.
Yeah,
And I'll break out
yeah, I
first.
just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that it didn't necessarily come from them and go to you,
No,
but
it goes
it goes directly to you.
Now, in regards to the chain of command, since you have interaction with the public, and if the public had a concern in your role as animal inspector,
They would contact the state.
they would contact the state.
Mr. Chairman, are these permits, are they online? I should maybe ask you, are they online? So how does the public get the, I know I have a barn permit, usually the Board of Health notifies me when it's time to renew it. So who, can people go online and fill this out and then,
Normally, I mail out the renewals, so moving forward, I don't know how you wanna do that, I don't know. Oh, the permit is available online, yes.
so could, and it's more for the chief, but could the public, me, for my chickens, just fill it out and give it to, and drop it off at the police station, not necessarily that you have to stay there 24/7, wait for it, but he doesn't have to, he can just put it in a folder and you on a regular basis go down there, get the permit, sign, do your inspection and sign off on it.
Or it can be emailed directly to me. That's an option, because, and then I can go from there, printing it out or whatever.
And along the same line, so when you say you have control of the book and nobody else can look at it, what happens when you're not available? Who, say there's some incident?
You'd have to appoint another animal inspector, and the state would have to approve that, because I don't have an assistant.
And they would have access to that book with permits?
Not, well, I guess with the permits and with the barn book, anybody that has a barn permit should have a barn inspection, so yes.
Second.
We can explore expanding permit links so that they are completely online, which means they don't even have to visit a town building.
Yes, but unfortunately, not everybody is computer literate or,
Well, I'm not saying that we would negate the ability to take paper copies. I've been very profound about accepting both in my office, but it's an option that the public could have. And that would automate the process. How many do we issue? I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know how many barn permits we issue, but I can tell you last year I did 60 barn inspections. That's stables and barns.
60.
60, and that doesn't include, there are other people out there that I found out in the past year that now have more animals, or have animals.
So if you're doing 60 inspections at different locations, there should be 60 permits.
There should be, but that doesn't always happen.
So, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
We have 28 stable permits currently, 8 commercial, 20 residential. There is 21 barn permits, but I sent out 57 renewals.
57?
But a lot of people called and said, we no longer have chickens, we no longer have goats. So there are notes in those files, but it's not everyone. Doesn't mean they still have the animals, so a lot of times if we happen to be out and we see them, there's a note and I just check the address when I come back and make sure. But there, like Stacy said, there's people with chickens and goats that don't even know they need a barn permit.
So, but if under the requirements of chapter 129, we're meeting the requirements of the bond book, where you're going out to those 60, we're meeting the statutory requirement.
Yes.
And I mean, if we're meeting that on the bond permit outside to chase, I mean, we have all the information from the bond permit side we need. Why would we need to chase a whole nother process that would provide us exactly the same information that we already have in the bond book?
I understand what you're saying. The only concern I have is those commercial ones, the commercial stables. Because if you hold a boarding permit through the state or a riding lesson through the state, you need to have some kind of permit saying that the town knows that that's what you're doing. That would be my only concern. The other ones, it's okay. We can do away with them if that's what you want. It's the commercial ones that I am very concerned about because we do have 4 or 5 of them in town.
Mrs. Ferry, do you have an office at the police station?
Not at the police station. I have one at my shelter, but I don't have any kind of internet or anything there, so I do most of my work at the police station. I sit in the patrol room like all the other guys.
So, you know, one piece that I see that the Board of Health is doing is getting the word out to those people who currently are in the system for bond permits or stables, providing not so sure accurate record, because I've heard 2 different numbers of how many, you know, you said you did 60 inspections and I'm hearing 28.
21.
Well, that's stable and barn. So
28.
28 stable, and then the barn permits at 21, so yeah.
49, 60. How did you pick up 12 or 11 more?
By driving by somebody and went, oh, look it, they have animals. Or they have chickens that's selling eggs in the front of their house.
Now, when that happens, did you coordinate it back with the Board of Health so they could update their system?
I don't have barn permits. I haven't had barn permits in my possession. If I see people, I don't always see people. When I see people, I will say to them, you know, you need to have a barn permit. They go, yep. If I can't make them do it.
Oh, you can't?
I can't make them do it. So if they look at me and go, yep.
Yeah.
That's it. Yep, it is.
So just in my opinion, part of the challenge with our bond permit is there's no enforcement. I mean, like it mentioned the yearly inspection, but like it doesn't have. Like it mentions that the reason for the bond permit is for like emergency response purposes. So but it doesn't mention any other function, enforcement ability, or any,
Oh.
or anything else, so like from Stacy's point of view, I understand that. So yeah, like she can bring it to their attention, but the permit, so in the function of the permit itself, like really, I mean, that I have seen really has no teeth.
Now, is there a fee that goes with this?
At $10.
$10?
There's a nominal fee, and when we send that letter out advising people that you have animals, we need to know that. We give them a phone call, follow-up to say the reasoning why you have that. The state would like the town to know, God forbid, in the event of an emergency, say, like the flooding down south, all those animals drowned. It was horrible. Whereas hopefully we never need to evacuate, but at least we would know where a majority of the animals are. And once you explain that to people, and the same thing with bird flu, like Ken was talking about, if you have chickens, that is in the back of your mind. One of them gets sick or happens to die and you're not sure what. So people are very willing to conform, especially it's $10. And we explain that to them. And actually the Board of Health last year said, you know what, maybe we'll do a 2-year permit rather than every year, we'll do an every other year renewal, but that never went any further.
That's because I had a problem with that. Only because if you give somebody a permit for 2 years and I go in within the year and I go, you know what, they don't deserve a permit, we need to revoke their permit for whatever reason, I can go to the Board of Health, but they can say, oh, you know, I still have a permit, so because I have to inspect once a year, if we're gonna do a barn permit, it should be yearly.
Now, who revokes permit, the Board of Health or you?
Well, it would be,
The same?
well, no, because that state doesn't have anything to do with that permit.
Okay.
It would
So-
have to, because it's a Board of Health regulation, I would assume the Board of Health would have to revoke that.
Now, where is I haven't seen a copy of the inspection form that you use.
The barn permit,
Yeah, well, no, when you go to do an inspection,
there's a barn permit that
well,
I,
all I have is a bond permit application,
Excuse me, animal inspector will be conducting the inspection.
but the actual
So
inspection,
is an inspection form that goes with this at all?
it's just my barn permit. Just my inspection from the barns of the state,
so,
so I don't have something that says, when I do my barn inspections,
Mhm.
it's a 3-copy thing. One goes to the owner, one stays with me, and one goes to the state. If I have any problems, it's written right on that form and tells them how many days they need to fix whatever's wrong. Now, if it's something that I think can't wait 7 to 10 days or whatever, as I'm standing on that property, I'm calling MDAR and saying, somebody needs to get down here, this is the property, this is what's going on. And they're usually down there within the day. I haven't had to do that, but it is what you're supposed to do. And nobody can tell me I can't go on that property to do a barn inspection, that's against the law. If I go on and they hold me back, I'm supposed to call the police. If we're still having a problem, then we call MDAR and they come down.
Do you issue fines?
Not for that, no. Because this is all basically a state thing. The barn permits that this town does is completely different from the state and what I have to do for the state.
can you, in your powers, either as the animal control officer or animal inspection, can you issue fines?
Yes, as an animal control officer, I can issue fines.
And who would they appeal those to, general law, court, or would they appeal it to the Board of Selectmen?
I guess that the hearing authority is the first one that says on my citations, and then after that, it goes to the court.
Yeah,
I have a question, a couple comments. Do you charge a fee for the bond inspection with the bond book?
No.
No, that's a state regulation, okay. Statutorily, based on what I'm hearing, it seems like there's an awful sense of redundancy here, which is not necessary. If the only reason that the Dayton Board of Health is issuing a bond permit is to know where the animals are located, even though this bond book is not shared with the Board of Health or anyone else, in the event of an emergency, I'm guessing that you would work with emergency responders and let us know where all the animals are located. So I really don't see the need for it.
Thank you. One concern I do have in listening to this conversation is especially what you said in regards to lack of an internet and is the connection between the public and what goes on with animal control. I also have a concern that the policy is one of the Board of Health, not the Board of Selectmen. So as a result, any changes have to come from the Board of Health. Keeping the public informed is very important. And also making sure that there's some record keeping is also important. Especially with the permitting process that brings in revenue. And going along with that, I can hear people saying, you know, I beat the system because I didn't get a letter. And you know what that can lead to. People ratting out each other and creating additional problems. So I am concerned about that, if nothing more, the record keeping and the notification of the public. So with that being said, I don't know if those are responsibilities that either the police department would want to take on, or if some type of upgrades could be made with the animal control officer's office. I also
Well, I
wonder if she
have-
has the time to do.
I have internet at the police station. I do most of my work, all my online stuff, all my IMC stuff is all done at the police station. I'm at the police station daily.
So you do have an office there?
No, I sit in the patrol room like everybody else does, all the patrol officers do. I don't have an office, I just sit at one of the computers that's free and do what I need to do. But I'm usually there daily for an hour or two, sometimes less, depending on what's going on. But, so I mean, I have that, don't have it on my thing, and I have internet at home. I do a lot of stuff at home also, so. When I have something that needs to be sent, it's out there. Animals that have lost or have kittens now, those are already there. They're not ready to go by any means. They're only a couple weeks old. But I think for what as animal control, we try to keep the public as, updated as possible. Animal inspector is a little different because it's basically a state. There's not much I can put out there. You will see probably on my Facebook page in another week or so, I'm gonna be doing barn inspections. I let people know that way, and then some people like to be there when I do them. So I make sure I call those people so they know I'm coming. I don't wanna give them too much notice because I wanna see the barn the way it's normally, not because I'm coming. There are other people that say, oh, just stick the tag on the board in the stable or in the barn. So,
If we turn over the clerical, or the Board of Health is willing to turn over the clerical aspect of this job, would that burden you?
No.
Notifying, keeping the record keeping, currently what the Board of Health does now.
I don't think so, no.
So,
But I don't think I can,
now she's gonna be taking in money and everything else.
and which I don't-
That's-
I don't want to, well, I do now, but.
So I just,
No, thank you.
so I mean, like it sounded, it sounded earlier, maybe like a direction or like an understanding that the barn permit itself was actually duplicative. Like with this, like with the state statute, but there was a value and a need to have like a stable permit system continue.
And even if it's just for those commercial ones, the ones that either board or give lessons, those we need to be able to.
So is that, so yes, so like a stable permit, especially like a stable permit that is more commercial nature, but I mean, I do so understand the value of having like an all-encompassing permit.
So,
Could that be done under the joint ACO inspector role and not have anything to do with the Board of Health?
I would think possibly, yes.
This is continuing.
Yes, I'm totally fine with that. Anything that will give us a little break over there, because Roz is loaded. You know that she's just got too much responsibility. Right, I firmly believe it should stay together.
Jim, what's wrong with her handling the funds for the grants?
Bonding is the biggest one, then she's gonna have turn-ins. Then that creates a whole clerical aspect of it.
So what if that aspect was given to the police department, they take in permits for guns and
Yeah, but
so they're bonded as well?
but that would have to reopen negotiations, because that's not currently under the purview right now. What kind of revenue are we talking about?
Yeah, I mean, the $10
We're talking
applications,
about $300-400,
$200.
you know? I mean, I get it,
so I mean,
but
is
it's
it,
gonna close the gap.
But it's a case that we wanted to scratch it.
Yeah.
so I mean, but is
It's
there
also
value?
record keeping. You know, I mean, obviously, as good as the record keeping is now, there's still a discrepancy.
One of the problems too is if you're only taking in that little revenue, the cost of the town to produce that, we're in the negative, we're always in the red. No, it's completely opposite the way I run my department. It just doesn't make sense. And like Administrator Mullen says, if it's duplicated and we're meeting the statute, I see no reason for it. If we have a problem, you're gonna confer with the emergency management director, and we're gonna find out where all the animals are. It's that simple. So, commercial ones, I completely agree with you, and I have visited commercial ones myself, so there are some that I visit because the public is there. So if we wanted to work something out, we do them jointly or something, I would have no problem doing that with you.
I have a question then, so the stable license, is that just for horses or is it?
Just for horses.
So you don't know, somebody has cows or sheep or?
The thing is, if you go to a stable, you're supposed to inspect everything, so I find that sometimes, they usually have chickens, sometimes they have ducks. They don't usually have cows, your commercial, especially commercial ones don't usually have anything except for horses there. But, and most of my stables have chickens, but that's about it, they don't have cows and everything else, maybe a goat.
Now, I noticed in town, there are some people who have llamas and alpacas.
Mhm.
That's considered a barn,
Yes,
even the corral and.
Yep. consider a barn, you can't ride it.
And that's in the bottom book.
Yeah, llamas and alpacas are in the barn book,
Cool.
so are chickens and rabbits and all sorts of things, ducks, geese, owl.
Now, procedurally, if this were to happen, we would need a vote by the Board of Health.
We could work that out.
It would have to be on the agenda.
Are there any further questions in regards to this matter? And unless the Board of Health, which they can't do this evening, votes.
Yeah, we'd have to, we'd have to
second.
put it on the agenda.
Okay.
Would have to be on the agenda. And I think it's too late for tomorrow night.
Yes. Okay. So we will revisit this.
Just really quick, while we're on like these, while we're on the ACO, like in animal welfare, like I just wanted to touch base on one other function that was actually typically, that has been typically shared by both the ACO, and the Board of Health, and that relates to the organizing and the operating of the rabies clinics. So yeah, I guess going forward, the organizing, the notice and everything, that would be up to you now. Based on, the job description and the separation, I just wanna talk to you.
If that's the case, I vote, I mean, I can do that.
Yeah.
If that's what you want, if that's what that says. I think of rabies I am at a rabies clinic, but I don't need to be there because rabies is a public health thing. We don't have to hold a rabies clinic. I am always at a rabies clinic. I don't say always, I would miss a year because I was away, but I'm usually at a rabies clinic. I can make sure we have a vet out there and do one. If that's what is asked.
So like, I'm just asking this, I don't have the answer, but I just wanna clarify this because, you can understand.
No, I understand.
What are you reading from? Is that a job description?
Yes, and
ACO animal inspector?
the ACO, yes.
And it says that ACO
Hold on a
shall be
second.
responsible for the rabies clinic, administering rabies clinic?
I just wanna, rabies control.
Well, rabies control is making sure that animals who are licensed or need rabies vaccines are vaccinated. It doesn't mean she
Okay.
administers a vaccine day.
See, I just wanna have an understanding how we do this, so there aren't any gray areas here.
But she can also, if she wishes to hold a rabies clinic, you do that now, right? Or is that the Board of Health?
The Board of Health always sets it up. I'm usually there, just to facilitate whatever needs to happen. I'm hoping in the near future that we'll be able to do this for Slaggy, because they have got all their new equipment for vet tech stuff, so I'm hoping that we'll be able to do a lot of stuff with them. Low cost, spaying and neutering and, vaccines, but until then, we need to, I think it's a good idea to have a rabies clinic, because that's the only thing as an ACO or the state can make somebody do is give a rabies vaccine. You don't have to give any other vaccine to your dog or a cat, except for a rabies vaccine. And people should have animals, but sometimes going to the vet and paying $400 just to get a rabies vaccine is not feasible. So to have a rabies clinic that's only gonna charge them $15, at least I'm getting that done.
In this, as I'm looking at the duties, I see the word rabies control, which is somewhat ambiguous.
It is.
Proactive or reactive.
Both.
You understand, but no, you understand it is both.
It is both, because,
So-
you're right.
If, and again, I'm going to give total respect to the Board of Health and their decision, but if they were to handle this over to you, would you feel comfortable coordinating a rabies clinic,
Oh, yes.
whether it be with the Aggie or right by yourself?
Well, I can't do it, I have to get a veterinarian, but yes, I would find somebody.
Okay. Mr. Aggie?
We don't have to, as a town, offer a vaccine day or rabies day. I think we do it to help the public and assist the ACO in making her life easier by having vaccinated animals. So I think putting it on one person, I don't think is fair. I think if you are responsible, you have vaccination control, I agree. If Titan is gonna work towards having the vaccine day, we can all pitch in
Well,
to help out.
my term that I used was coordinate.
Okay.
You're 100% right.
Okay.
And coordination of
And
effort.
I think the Board of Health has some responsibility to help with that too, because in effect, it's helping control disease.
Well, it does say the primary duty of the animal inspector is rabies control. And I think that would fall partially under the rabies clinic. It's
Well, I think-
partial control.
I think Chairman Hall brings up a good point. Control can be taken both ways, reactively and proactively. Reactively by ordering someone to vaccinate their animal, or proactively by holding a vaccine day.
Well, then who has control if your animal is not have rabies vaccination?
That would be.
That would be me.
So,
Right,
there you go.
right, but I just wanna make sure, if we're
Yes.
clearing the air,
Mhm.
I don't want poor Stacy to have all the responsibilities to do this, when town-wide, we're all benefiting from it. That's all.
Service to the
So-
public is huge. Okay.
How many animals did get rabies last year? We have one clinic.
We have one clinic.
How many animals were vaccinated?
I'm gonna say probably 30.
Was it for 2 hours?
It was for an hour.
An hour, that was quite, wow, great.
We had people waiting
Perfect,
And I get calls starting in March.
good.
When's your rabies clinic gonna be? When's your rabies clinic gonna be? So, there's interest out there.
Does Mr. Pacheco, the clerk, get involved in sending notices out for rabies or just for the licenses?
Well, it's sort of a dual purpose in the fact that if you send out for a license, they have to have a rabies certificate to get a license. So if they don't have a rabies, they can't get a license. And then I have a list of those people that haven't gotten tags, whether it's just because they don't have the dog or they haven't been vaccinated or whatever.
So that being his role, he could coordinate getting the word out, since he does it already for license, if the timing were.
Well, he did last year. He was at my rabies clinic last year. Signing up dogs, licensing dogs.
Yeah, like I think like in this area, there's like a lot of like overlap and really, like in partnership needed. I mean, there like is some semblance of like responsibility that's in the town clerk's office, like where he's involved, there's a semblance of responsibility with the ECO, but also with the Board of Health. And I mean, I think it's like important really, like as Jim mentioned too, to understand so that, like that, like as much as we're trying to streamline these things, so like we're a small town, we work with each other, we collaborate. And I think I mean, if we try to get away from that mindset, so like we're all gonna go down the tubes, and I think it's important that we keep that in this as well.
Ms. Catavia, any questions?
No, I think we're all set.
Mrs. Noel?
But if we're talking, basically what we're talking about is the duties of the Board of Health, like we're talking about taking some responsibilities away from them. And if we're gonna give it to Stacy, I don't think that they ought to have any, I mean, you can make them aware of it, but I think Stacy, animal inspector, can organize it, get the vet, pick the time, let them know. But you were control, so if we're talking about taking stuff away, we have to take stuff away. So this is one possible duty that we can take away from them. So I know that we're all kind of, a small town, all that kind of stuff, but we're really here to talk about what their responsibilities are, what their duties are, what their job descriptions are. And if we're thinking about reducing some of that, we have to reduce some of that.
That's why you're here this evening, to hear what you're comfortable with as well. We'll continue this discussion probably after the Board of Health has a chance to leave.
That
Whichever
sounds good.
direction they want to
I
go, since
totally,
it is your policy.
totally agree with that, and we'll come up with an amendment.
Emergency,
To vote on.
emergency preparation. Chief McGee, or Mr. Mullin, an introduction.
So one of the things, the emergency prep committee, in August, or the former emergency prep committee, I've been talking about really streamlining our emergency response and preparedness functions. We, I believe, are one of the only towns around that might have or have ever had emergency prep really coordinated under the Board of Health, which I mean, in my experience, has always been under the emergency management director. So this is one of the first areas where we tried to look at streamlining things, which we did with which the emergency prep committee did, with the recommendation to disband the emergency prep committee. Since then, there's been different questions, still, about who handles binders, who doesn't handle binders, who in the Board of Health is responsible, for emergency planning and so forth. So to have a conversation to really, I'll set the expectation in this area as well. So we talked about having the chief here so we can all be on the same page.
No, my understanding is that the chief coordinates the response.
The chief is the emergency management director for the town.
Right, but he doesn't do it all himself. There are many, we have many people, many support people.
Absolutely.
I can't do everything on my own, so if I need police assistance, I call the police chief. If I need building assistance, I call Jim. If I need the board of health, I'm gonna contact the board of health. It's supposed to be a planning committee, but not under the purview of the board of health. Dayton was pretty much the only state in Massachusetts that had an emergency prep committee that fell under the board of health. That's not the way it's supposed to work. As an emergency management director that's appointed by the board of selectmen, I'm supposed to be able to call upon who I need when I need them, not have to have a meeting with the board of health scheduled to, it muddies the waters when in a true emergency happens.
But with that being said, all those support people, they have specific roles and specific jobs that they're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
And with that, do they know what your expectations are? Because ultimately, you're answerable.
I don't think they could know that until the emergency occurs. Every emergency is gonna be different. If it's a hurricane, I may need Jim more than I need the police, or until the emergency occurs, we don't know who we need to call upon.
Right. But is there a plan book, a playbook that will say the Board of Health, these are the specific duties, these are the things that I'm gonna be calling on you, this is what I.
So there's the binders that are in question that have supposedly plans that are supposed to be in place. Are all the binders full? No, but that's something that needs to be worked upon. That's something that I inherited, and it needs to be looked at. So it's just a matter of right now, if something happens, there's ICS and NIMS, and we fall under all the incident command structures, and I'm the guy that's in charge if something happens, and I call upon whoever I need. This isn't new to the town of Dayton. We have blizzards, we have hurricanes, we meet before those incidents, or at least we talk on the phone on who's available and what's the resources are gonna be in the case that if we need something, who do we call upon? I don't know if I answered the question or not.
Well, I still have a question, but I don't wanna dominate the discussion. There are certain things in certain emergencies that you really count on people to take care of. That, correct me if I'm wrong, that you don't, once you say, Jimmy, you're gonna do this, right? Boom. You don't have to worry about it, you have other areas that you have to worry about. And everyone knows their role and how they're supposed to handle that.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, those binders, is it a separate one for each of the support members? Or is that a binder that includes all?
I don't, the binders, as far as I know, the binders shouldn't have like support roles in it. It should just be what happens with different situations. I mean, that support role can change for every incident. I could say that Sean's gonna be the guy for the police department, but he could be away. It could be somebody else. All these structures are fluent depending on the incident.
So what's in the binder?
Mostly contact information,
Right.
that's it, the procedural,
Can I
that's it.
speak on the binders?
Yeah,
Because there's gonna be some changes, so the binders, I've never seen them, they're like some kind of magical thing to me I've never seen, so I don't know, but what I've been told is that it's gonna go down to like one binder, because it's gonna be like a thumb drive, and it's gonna be more so that it is like a template, so you can fit different scenarios in it. To the planning folks say they were gonna come out to the town and speak with us and go through it.
At some point, we're working on the ES plans right now.
So they're gonna come out, they're gonna show us it, and they're gonna go over it with us so that we
So-
can have a better
So
understanding.
EDS is a public health, that doesn't fall under that doesn't fall under my
No.
purview at all. That falls under the Board of Health, that's a public health emergency. So emergency dispensing falls under the Board of Health. I don't mean to sound rude, but that's Board of Health thing, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm here to support. So here again, we talk about support. If Todd has an emergency or the Board of Health has an emergency, and they say to me, we need to open up the middle school, we need the stanchions, this, that, and the other, I'll get my personnel. Jim will open the building for me, make sure the building is what it needs to be building-wise, egress-wise. I'll get my personnel to set up the stanchions. Police is gonna run the security. We're gonna do what we have to do to support that public health emergency.
Would you be uncomfortable if the binders remained under the privy of the Board of Health?
They're gonna go away, we're gonna thumb drive, right?
It's gonna be, it's gonna be changed.
A thumb drive, but
So we can have a binder burning ceremony.
The binders, with all due respect, anything that is emergency management related should come to me. Anything public health should stay with the Board of Health. So I don't know what binders they have, I know we were working on, with Nick, when he was here as a student worker, we were working with him on emergency evacuation routes for hurricanes and flooding and all that stuff. All those binders, that binder should come to me, for instance. That's not a public health emergency, it's an emergency. So that binder should come to me. Any of those kinds of binders should come to me, all the public health stuff stays with the Board of Health. I don't know how else to state
Yeah, that
that.
was,
Great job.
yes. In managing that aspect, you have the personnel to do that.
Yeah, I would hope so. And
Okay, no, I just,
if not, I would call upon my mutual aid partners. That's why I have mutual aid partners. That's why we have a mutual aid agreement and stuff like that. It's no different than a structure fire. I'm gonna call for more hands. And the saying is, call early, call often, because you don't know what you're gonna get, and you're gonna call for help, and if I have to cancel them, I cancel them. That's how it works in the fire service, it's how it works in the police service. If we need help, we're gonna call it as early as possible, and we can always cancel them in a room.
Yeah, the ICS and NIMS are sort of an overarching certification that covers all emergency situations. Each discipline has its own support group, like for instance, the chief mentioned his police department. Let's say there was a natural disaster and I had 100 buildings in town that were destroyed or damaged. I can't do all that, but there's already a system in place where I will get as many inspectors as I need to Dayton from all New England. So that's why the binders can say this, say that, but show me the emergency, we'll show you how to respond. There are already networks and procedures in place that most people in Dayton don't even know exist, but they're there.
so we really don't need the binders,
I
other than, the specific.
You think in the middle of an emergency, I'm gonna stop and open up that book and say, what am I gonna do next? No, that's not how it works. However, I will tell you,
You're not gonna be here forever.
the training that we're required to have to hold the positions that we hold from an administrative perspective requires us to know what's in those books and how to contact the right people. And know that the chief is the commander. He makes all the decisions. I don't make a decision without talking to him. So that's how it works.
The reality is, in instances of crisis management, you're gonna be making decisions on the fly as you're getting information, as you're seeing things develop. So you can have 20 binders. Doesn't, honestly, respectfully, it doesn't matter. You're gonna make the best decision you can with the information that you're getting. So it's gonna be extremely fluid. That's just the reality of it.
But to eat in your concern, we're all training on the contents of those binders. But to say that we're gonna open up a binder in emergency and look through it, absolutely not. But we're gonna reference the knowledge that we got from those binders through our training and implement it or act on it based on the emergency.
A lot of it is common sense. I mean, if we have a hurricane, some trees go down the road, you're not gonna look in the book, who do I call?
No.
Don't call the highway department. It's like- I do have a question about Code Red. Who's in charge of Code Red? Is it the Board of Health presently or you?
So the code red always fell under the emergency preparedness committee. So I mean, it's my understanding that with the, so So with the dissolution of the committee and with the chief as the emergency management director, code red would be run by the chief. Oh, yeah, like and coordinated frankly through dispatch as well, because, like the other 24/7, like in the communication center, just like we saw, like a week and a half ago, in North Dayton, the code red was actually coming from dispatch and it was extremely effective.
So, and with that said, Todd and the Board of Health still has access to Code Red.
Okay,
So if they need to put out a public health emergency through Code Red, it's
They can do
still, he's able to do that.
on the issue of emergency preparedness, I know we took a vote. It's clear understanding that responsibility is with the chief. We don't need to take a vote in regards to the restructuring effort. Well, I know you have to leave, you have the binder, I believe, in there, black clip that's mine.
Do I really?
Yeah. No,
On this?
yes, I believe. No?
This? No, I don't think I did that.
Okay, thank you. I had one like that when I came in, that's all.
No, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Michael, is this yours?
What? The keyboard?
That one,
We need
that.
That's what keeps saying go.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Drive careful.
Next on the agenda, review and discuss an act, health agent job description. Now, my understanding is that we were going to,
Thank you, Stacy.
thank you, Stacy. We were going to take, each specific area with a specific need.
Thanks, Chief.
Like, I don't see anything on the agenda specifically stating other areas of the health agent or the board of, Board of Health health department in regards to other functions. So, Mr. Pilling, you don't have, what are your roles in regards to animal inspection?
I don't have any.
And in emergency prep, you have certain functions regarding what the Board of Health is responsible for in an emergency, is that correct?
So, yes, in a natural disaster, I would be called upon to do my role, but the EDS, the emergency dispensing site, that falls on the Board of Health to set it up, get everybody the trainings and get that all done.
Now, we've had a discussion about binders or thumb drives, we're in the 21st century, I get it. The development of that would still remain the privy of the Board of Health and the person who oversees.
Well, as the chief said, like, there's 5 binders that apply to EDS, and we would be in charge of those and keeping those up, but the other 12 binders would fall under him to get those up to speed.
So the binders would still, the 5 would remain under your privy. And that would be under the EDS system. So would it be fair to say that your responsibility is to manage the EDS system as it applies to the town of Dayton?
I think that's how we were, administrate or manage or something along those lines, yeah. I mean, we're not in charge, again, the chief is still the.
Right, but, like I said, under your role, and then there's all the supports.
Yep.
You have a certain function in that hierarchy,
Yes.
and that is pretty spelled out.
Yeah, our roles are very spelled out for what things are supposed to be, but like say the EDS, we're the ones that take the lead on. We would call the highway department and say, hey, we need barricades, and call the fire chief and say we need EMSs, and the police, we need, we would make those calls and tell them we need your help, just like in a natural disaster, they would call in reverse and say, now we need the board of health help.
Now, in our discussion this evening, the only thing that we really discussed that we could vote on would be the issue of, under the job description of administer or manage the EDS system. I say that as a question to my colleagues. Regarding that, help me with one, the difference between administer and manage. Is there a difference?
So, again, for an EDS, we have to do quarterly call down drills. Once a year, we have to have an assembly, I believe. Mr. Pacheco's been to one. I think Karen, you've been there too, right? Weren't you there? No.
No, it's good.
I know Mr. Aguirre was. So we set the whole thing up. We told everybody what they had to do when they got there, and we went over everybody's roles. But like the chief said, in an emergency, we say all hands on deck, and then we tell everybody what to do. So administrate, manage, I don't know what term you want to use, but administrate means we have to have those plans in place, so when it actually happens, we now need to manage the event. However, if we get to an event like an EDS where we're giving out pills, we're gonna be relying on our public health nurse to be running the pill end of it, while we're running the logistical end of it, of making sure you have greeters and a room for people who are agitated and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I'm answering the question the way you're asking.
You are, and, now EDS specifically applies to the Board of Health, correct?
Yes. Because you're dispensing meds to every resident in the town within 24 hours.
So would the Board of Selectmen be comfortable in adding, or not adding, but retaining the job, under the job description, the role of managing the EDS system for the Board of Health?
I don't think we need to vote on that tonight, since it is a duty and responsibility automatically, right? That's, the Board of Health is responsible for that.
Yes, we are. Like, you couldn't take that away even if you wanted to.
So I don't think we need to.
There is no need.
We'll make sure when we complete the job description that that's part of it, obviously, but I don't think we vote on that tonight.
Well, yeah, we're still on like job duties, I guess, instead of job description. I don't think it's job description, but it's, yeah.
With that being said, I'd like to, before we get into new business, so we can set up our agenda for the next meeting. We talked at the last meeting about two specific, possibly three separate meetings. One being stormwater, and the second one, or second and third, stormwater / solid waste. One, which one would you like to do first? And two, do you want solid waste to be part of the transfer station discussion, or have that as a separate?
Well, solid waste and transfer station go hand in hand, because it's all part of solid waste. But transfer station's a sub-part of it, I guess, so transfer station and solid waste would go together. It's your pick which one you wanna do first. I don't have a preference, I don't know how the board feels, but.
Does Mr. Lawrence have a day that he can't come to a meeting?
No, he just, I know he works, and he can't get here, same as Mr. Cameron, can't get here before like 5 o'clock or something like that.
So-
Wednesdays he has.
Wednesdays, yeah, off completely, but.
Oh, so Wednesday would be
Yeah.
good. Okay, good,
Yes, Wednesdays, so.
good. With
We
that.
also need Mr. Ferry for that discussion.
Right. With that being said, Anyone have a preference?
What are we thinking of?
Well, I'm not, we haven't got there yet, because Mike's not here. Karen, do you have his calendar?
See if I can bring it up.
Personally, I would like to next tackle stormwater. You know, that one I see as being a little easier because it's currently under the Board of Health. And I don't see that based on the recommendations of the state. I don't see that changing. What may change is the responsibilities and the role in turn, you know, and we definitely want Mrs. Goulart there for that. I've spoken to her and she's looking forward to it.
I don't think we could keep her in.
So we just have a consensus that the next
Yes, I agree.
meeting
Stormwater,
will
next meeting.
focus on stormwater. Thank you. Regarding the date for the next meeting, Wednesdays work? Karen, next week we got, well, it's gonna be tough, and
Next week we have a meeting and we have one on the 30th.
next Wednesday is,
The 9th, we have a Board of Selectmen's meeting, the 16th, I have a library committee meeting. 23rd is the day before Thanksgiving, not that I have anything to do with that. Some people here may have, and the 30th, we have a Board of Selectmen's meeting. So the rest-
Actually, the 16th is a solid waste committee, right? The 16th is a
Yeah.
solid waste committee.
going into December work for people.
Oh, November, yeah. So,
Because
30th.
November's pretty close. What's the first Wednesday in
December 7th,
I believe Mike has,
so it will go down indefinitely.
I believe, Mike has a
Good
meeting,
day for stormwater discussion.
Mike has a meeting with that, the 7th over at, with, the forum, you know, the
Oh, yep.
regional forum.
So we have a Board of Selectmen's meeting the 14th and the 28th of December.
Do Thursdays work for anyone?
Well, it doesn't work for Mr. Lawrence, right?
He would just have to come later,
Yeah,
I
they come a
believe.
little later.
Say same as Mr. Cameron, at 6 o'clock, you can.
Yeah.
Oh, so we could do it Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got Mike's calendar.
How's Thursdays look for Mike? I mean, we don't have to meet over there, we can always meet here too.
Thursdays look okay, but, November.
For November.
On the 11th? I'm sorry,
The 10th,
That works on the 11th
and then we close on the 10th.
and the 10th.
they close on the 10th.
Town hall's closed on the 10th.
So what would be the first Thursday that's available?
So the 17th.
How is November 17th?
It's good for me.
So it'll be Thursday, November 17th at 6 P.M. Does that work for everyone?
Location to be determined, or?
We have to see what the real.
Yeah. And that will be stormwater.
Did you say 7 o'clock?
Who's gonna let Mrs. Goulart know? 6 o'clock.
Oh, I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want everybody to forget to tell her.
Oh, no, oh, no.
No.
At 5:30,
She's gonna watch this, so she'll know.
at 5:20 this evening, we were talking about this. Okay, 6 P.M.? 6 P.M. Beautiful. At this point in time, has the Board of Health put a recommendation together for solid waste? Or is that something that
No, the solid waste committee, we read their recommendations, and the Board of Health hasn't yet, but in the efforts of expediting things, we thought with the joint meeting, they could make their decision, and then you can make yours right after.
Since it's on our agenda, we could vote on that this evening.
Yes, again, that's why we did the joint meeting, so we could go done 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and just knock them all out.
Okay, with that being said, Mrs. Batavia?
Okay. I'd like to, under business recommendations for solid waste committee. A1, review, discuss, act, vote to recommend the Board of Selectmen appoint Thomas Pires to the solid waste committee. Yeah.
I motion to recommend to the Board of Selectmen the appointment of Thomas Myers to the Solid Waste Committee.
Can I step down and second that? Any discussion? No discussion? Can I have a vote?
Aye.
And I sit down, aye. Motion passes to recommend Thomas Pires to the Board of Selectmen to be added to the solid waste committee.
With that being said, I will entertain a motion to appoint Thomas Pires to the solid waste committee.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion made and second, all those in favor, Mr. Pacheco,
Aye.
Mr. Karen, Chairman Hull is an aye. And simple recycling contract, in regards to that, Mrs. Brady, do you have a presentation for Mr. Nolan on that?
Do I have it? No.
We have it.
Let me see what I've got left.
We have it. So I think there's a recommendation that we end a simple recycling contract. I think it might expire November 6th.
I think we have to recommend to you.
Yeah.
You haven't discussed it yet?
We're gonna do it right now.
Okay. Thank you, sorry about that.
A2, review, discuss, act, vote to recommend the Board of Selectmen disband the pink bag program of assembly recycling. No.
I motion to
I'm
recommend
sorry.
that the Board of Selectmen disband the pink bag program with simple recycling.
Can I step down and second that? Another vote? Aye. Step down, vote aye. Any discussion on this?
I'll just throw it for the record, it's like a 30-day,
30 notice.
to the, 30-day notice, so.
Have a vote on this? Do I call it?
I think we did.
You did.
I'm getting confused here, okay.
So then it
In
goes-
discussion. Motion passes. Yes. Recommend to the Board of Selectmen disband the pink bag program with simple recycling.
With that being said, I will entertain a motion to terminate the pink bag program and contract with Simple Recycling following a 30-day notice.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion made and second, all those in favor? Mr. Pacheco,
Right,
Mr. Karen,
Tonight.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Recommendation to hire CMRK. Has the Board of Health had an opportunity to discuss this?
So, the solid waste committee interviewed a couple different companies to do the new textile recycling. Both of the companies would like to place bins at locations in town. Solid waste kicked around, and the motion that they made was to recommend CMRK to do that and to place 2 clothing collection bins and 1 book bin at the transfer station for textile and book recycling.
I'd like to act on the vote to recommend the Board of Selectmen hire CMRK as the town's textile and book recycler company.
I'd like to motion that the Board of Selectmen hire CMRK as the town textile and book recycling company.
Can I second that? Any more discussion? We have a vote on that, please?
Aye.
I step down and vote aye. Motion passes to recommend the Board of Selectmen hire CMRK as the town's textile and book recycling company.
I'm going to break this up into two motions. The first motion will be to vote on the Board of Health recommendation. And if it passes, the second will be to authorize Mike Mullen to enter into the contract on behalf of the town of Dayton. Is there any discussion on this?
I think it's a great idea.
With that being said, I'll entertain a motion to hire CMRK or enter into the memorandum of understanding with CMRK regarding residential pickup and clothing donation bins.
So I'm confused, you asked for two motions, one was to,
Well, we're gonna do the first one is if we're gonna hire them. And then the second motion, if this passes, will be to authorize Mr. Mullen to sign on behalf of the town. So
I'll make a motion to hire CM, okay. Second.
motion made second, all those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye. Now entertaining a motion to appoint Mike Mullen, the town administrator, to be the representative of the town in signing this memorandum of understanding.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion made in second, all those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen?
Aye.
Chairman Hull is an aye.
If I may, before we move on, so they're gonna need like 3 to 4 weeks lead time to get the bins, whatever labels we want on them, because we have to label them appropriately and get them delivered to the town. We still have to figure out where we wanna put them, but I know it's not on the agenda, but with the selecting act on the idea of placing 2 textile bins there and 1 book bin at the transfer station. As opposed, I mean, it just is hiring a CMRK, but we want them to place bins at a certain location in town too.
Is that our response? I don't mean this in a negative way, but just not to take stuff away from, is that our responsibility or is that either the Board of Health or Mr. Ferry's?
Is that part of the contract?
Well, that's kind of a little bit of the discussion we talked with Mr. Aguirre about.
I don't think the selectmen have to make a motion on that. I believe that it is recognized, first of all, you're entering a contract with them, the contract was for a minimum of 2 bins and a book bin. Secondly, the transfer station is the collecting of refuse in town, so it doesn't matter what type of bin we put there, it's a bin to collect refuse,
Okay, that's
even
kind of-
recycling refuse.
That's
So
how
I
I
don't,
felt.
I don't think the board needs to vote on it.
And it's included in the agreement, we
Right.
have location type, transfer station,
Right.
65 PMI, including book binds, so.
That's-
No, it was just the way the motion came out of the solid waste committee,
Okay,
so
all right.
I just.
See that as something the Board of Health or Mr. Ferry can handle. Or working together. Review, discuss recommendation to hire Ace Mattress Recycling.
Again, we listened, we got a couple different contracts from a couple different companies, they charge different prices per piece, to haul it away, what we need for trailers, et cetera, and you'll see this will go into number 6 on the agenda there. And Ace Mattress is also highly recommended by Borges Brothers, who's our current curbside hauler, and also the solid waste committee made the recommendation that Ace would be the company to hire.
Now, I'm looking at this service agreement, it's not as clear as the previous contracts we entered into. This contract is through the Board of Health or the town of Dayton?
That's an interesting question. Can the Board of Health enter into a contract?
I'm sorry?
Can the Board of Health enter into a contract?
I don't know,
I don't believe so.
So the contract would be with both,
we would have to approve.
Okay. Well, not just that. we'll also appoint the person who will sign off on it,
Yeah,
just as
no,
we did
we were
last.
discussing whether or not Board of Health can approve it or we, so I'm just saying that we would approve it.
So what is the Board of Health's recommendation?
I would like to vote, enact to vote to recommend to the Board of Health of Selectmen, hire Ace Mattress Recycling.
I motion to recommend that the Board of Selectmen hire Ace Mattress Recycling.
I step down, second that. Can I have a vote, please?
Aye.
Aye. And the motion passes to recommend the Board of Selectmen hire Ace Mattress Recycling.
With that being said, is there any questions?
I do have a question, the cost, they're gonna charge the town $13.50 for each mattress. Then it says $375 for transportation, 25 to 50 miles. I think they're running around, so it's within that 50 miles. How many, do we know how many mattresses will fit into the, not the bin, but the, what, I forget what they call it.
There is an additional cost, we actually have to provide a container to put them
Oh,
in.
we have to provide it.
Right, which I have a solution for later in the agenda, but, so the solid waste committee took all of those costs into totality, and that's how we came up with the cost per mattress
For it.
to cover the fees, right? So the taxpayers wouldn't be, supplementing the cost of mattress disposal.
Right?
It would be strictly usable.
So will they take that away, so what are we doing again? So, well, actually, they would probably take like on a Monday, and then return it for us, so we have it on a Wednesday or that.
No, they unload the
They
container.
unload, okay.
Yes, they will only come pick it up once we have the full container.
Makes sense.
So the way this is gonna work now, you bring in a mattress and a box spring, we would charge you each separately.
Yeah.
The transfer station attendant then has to inspect them to make sure they meet the inspection criteria. If they don't, then he has to write up a 6-page report on each mattress and why it's rejected. And then it gets thrown in bulky bin. If it passes, it gets put into the bin. When this company shows up, they take every mattress and box spring out and put it in their trailer, and they inspect them as they move them, and if they reject it, then we gotta fill in a report for that, for why it's rejected.
What would a rejection be? What would the
Bed bugs, bees nests,
seeds?
they can't just, not little stains, it's gotta be more than that, but,
And they have to be dry.
and yeah, they can't be excessively wet or something like that is the terminology, but yeah,
Will we cover them?
it has to be covered.
We have to cover them.
They'll be in a sealed container. So I have 2 containers at the transfer station right now. Later on in the agenda, I'm gonna, solid waste committee recommended that Board of Health take over the rental of one of those containers for the mattresses.
And they have that in their budget?
We'll find out.
Okay.
So, Ms. Pacheco, you had asked how many we can fit in. Obviously, the size of the mattress has a lot to do with that. But we had talked with Mr. Borges about Freetown, I think it's somewhere to the tune of like 40 or 50 mattresses that you can get in a 40-foot container, something along those lines.
That definitely covers the cost then.
Well, and that's how we calculate it. We calculate it based on how many mattresses we do in a year, how many we fit in a trailer, and how many trips they would have to make.
Now, how about box springs? That's a whole separate issue?
No, they're the same as mattresses.
Okay.
So we'll get into it under the fees when we talk about what we came up with and that, but yeah, each piece is a separate item. So right now you would pay 15 for a mattress and 15 for a box spring.
Now, are they stored separately or they all go together?
It all goes together.
Or goes together, okay. What is the design of the Board of Health?
We've done it, so I've done it already.
Thank you. I'm going to entertain 2 motions. One, to enter into this agreement and to authorizing Mr. Mullen to sign on behalf of the town of Dayton. So I will entertain a motion to enter into a service agreement with Ace Mattress Recycling according to the terms spelled out in the agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made in second. All those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Ms. Karen? Chairman Hull is an aye. The motion passes. I will entertain a motion to appoint Michael Mullen town administrator to enter into an agreement on behalf of the town of Dayton with Ace Mattress Recycling.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made in second, all those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen? Chairman Hull is an aye. Before we discuss transfer station fees, it is my hope and wish that we, the Board of Selectmen, not take a vote on the recommendations of the Board of Health this evening. And the reason for that is that I want the public to have the opportunity to weigh in on this. Last time, there were a lot of surprises and a lot of angry residents. Clear transparency. The only question that I have, traditionally when we vote on fees or policies, there are 3 readings of it before we vote. Do we want to do 3 or do we want to do 2?
I prefer 3. It's been our policy.
Okay. We'll come to that as far as a formal vote
Okay.
in a bit, but at this time, I will open it to the Board of Health to give us a report and recommendation of your fees. Now, have you already voted on the recommendation from the solid waste? Oh, okay.
Yes.
I think we have these in the packet, if you guys.
Yes.
So we didn't cover everything, I think there's still a few other things we need to kick around, but Mr. Ferry wasn't at our last meeting, so we didn't get into it, like, for example, leaves, grass, brush, the sticker price, that kind of thing. But, normally, the new stickers go into effect for January 1st, we usually start selling them now. So we kind of need to know what we're doing soon, because people are already asking to buy stickers. Obviously, it's a January 1st sticker, so we could wait, but the fees we'd like to roll them out before a January 1st date. So just to give everybody an idea. So the fees that you see here are a result of Mr. Urban helped out the committee and did some research with some other towns. We know what the fees are to dispose of some of these things. We can get into it if you want, but some of it is by weight, some of it is by volume. And like, for example, the mattresses, we know it costs $13.50 a piece, we know how many can fit in a trailer and how much per year, and that's how we get the price of the $40. We have a lot of trailers that come through, and trailers take up a lot of space, and by volume, that's why that one's jumping. What it is, but we're also changing that one from the length of the trailer to whether it's a single or double axle. And yeah, everything's pretty much spelled out there, so this is what solid waste came up with. I mean, and if the desire is to delay this, I really think we need to get the mattress fee rolled out like 2 months ago, because it's costing us more to get rid of mattresses than the $15 we're charging. So we need to deal with that pretty quickly.
It is on the agenda. If we wanted to vote on it this evening, or we'll wait until, I mean, we have a meeting.
We have a meeting on the 9th, we have a meeting on the 30th, and we have a meeting on the 14th as far as reading the other piece, but I do tend to believe that we already, I don't see a recommendation as to the sticker price, but I think we can vote on that tonight, just so we can get that. I don't think that's gonna be, if we're talking, well, right now we charge 15, and are we thinking of 25? Is that what we're thinking?
We haven't discussed it.
We haven't discussed that with the solid waste committee yet,
Okay, so we can't vote on it tonight.
not on that, these are the other things that we're voting on.
I think we should at least vote on the mattresses.
Yes,
I mean, you have a $40 number here.
Yeah.
A 20 for cribs, so. Now, how much? How much does it cost the town to remove a mattress?
Currently or under the new contract with Ace?
Current,
I believe right now he is, Mr. Borges is doing it for us and he's disassembling them. And I think right now he's saying like, he's like $25, but he can't sustain this. Because we have too many mattresses, his staff can't take them apart as fast as they're coming in. But the other issue is, the ones we're collecting are in the open, so they're getting wet.
Right.
So we need to get them inside trailers as they come in so that we can fulfill the requirements of the recycling.
and we have to do that. I mean, John,
Well, that's the thing, John can't move a king-size mattress by himself. So presumably when a homeowner pulls in, he's gonna have them pull over to this trailer, which right now is up by the street. He's gonna have to go over there and help them load it into the trailer and get it stacked immediately.
which is labor and time and this doesn't happen.
$40 was given a lot of thought compared to what other towns charge and what we thought it was going to cost us to dispose of these mattresses.
I've heard numbers as high as 90, so.
Rehoboth is $150.
So that's for the mattress and bed frame combination.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So
that's
$75.
$75, yeah.
But we also said that obviously after like 6 months, now that the point of sale
Mhm.
thing was voted, we can get that running, then we'll have a better idea of volumes. Because right now I couldn't tell you how many mattresses we sell in a year, or how many trailers come through. We don't know.
Now, looking over this document, there are some like air conditioner, grill, $15, and there is no solid waste proposal. Does that mean that you're comfortable with the $15 and you're not
Yes.
looking for an increase?
That meant no change. And you see the ones in red, like ottoman or toilet or sink, those are items that we've added in, or mattress crib added into the list that weren't there before. And where it says mattress, TV, QK, that's twin, double, queen, and king.
Well, the Board of Health would have to first vote a recommendation before we take either under advisement or vote on any of these issues. Or items that are on the proposed list,
I thought they did.
No, this is just solid waste.
so.
Okay.
Now, I mean, the Board of Health could still change any of these numbers that you want and come up with anything you want. We can add in other items. As I say, I know Tom Ferry didn't weigh in, but personally, I'd like to charge for brush because we have to hire equipment to chip it all up and that, I mean, it takes laborers to load it into the machine and all the rest of it, given it makes wood chips. that
And
we-
again, the Board of Selectmen would not be voting on that this evening.
No, I know, but if the Board of Health is gonna make a recommendation, here's the fees, I would say they should throw something like that in, but solid waste hasn't made a recommendation on it yet, so.
Okay.
Up to you, you couldn't do some of it now and some of it later or whatever, you can do whatever you want. You have all the power, Mrs. Mel,
Why do you have to do that?
because you're the one making the motion.
So do we table something?
We were
Sounds like we
thinking of
wanna do the
tabling,
mattresses tonight.
we're thinking of tabling this, but I think it's really important to do the mattresses because as of November 1st, they can't go in with everything else. They have to be separated.
So I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen the increase in the mattresses from 15 to 40 with the addition of crib mattresses being 20.
And I,
Oh, maybe it's not.
It's not.
it's included.
Well, it's up to the
No,
top.
here it is, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Including box springs from $15 to $40.
And it was asked to be put them together, but it was alphabetical, so I didn't want to confuse them.
Was that what happened? Okay. And I second that. Yeah, I had a vote. I do. I also, motion passes to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that the increase in price from box springs from 15 to 40, increase of price of mattresses from 15 to 40, and mattress cribs will be an added $20.
Thank you. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to act on the Board of Health recommendation to increase the disposal cost of a box spring to $40, regular mattresses to $40, and crib mattresses to $20.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor? Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Cannon? Chairman Hull is an aye. Motion passes. When do you think the Board of Health will have recommendations on the other items?
Solid Waste Committee meets next on November 16th,
Okay.
so it'll be after that.
Okay.
We might have a special meeting if that's what we need in order to get this done by January 1st.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. Because I do want to be able to start talking about it at our meetings, so the public will know, and I'm not gonna put anything out on social media until we have a recommendation from the Board of Health.
So just to be clear, the mattress fees, that goes into effect immediately, or is there a January 1st date, or?
No, I believe that goes in effect immediately.
Yeah, I don't know, do you want a motion that we,
No, I just wanted, when
No,
you made the motion, I wanna make sure that it was.
I think when we made the motion, it was immediate as well.
Okay.
I was listening.
We should have added that.
No.
Sorry.
How are you gonna notify the public? Are they gonna drive in there and,
So we're gonna obviously change it on our website, it'll go out through social media. Mr. Mullen is working with Guilfoyle to come up with language for this, because this is not just Dayton, so across the whole state, everybody's doing this and changing their fees, so they were gonna put something together for some kind of announcement. Yeah, we're gonna have to put up some kind of sign, at the transfer station also. Oh yeah, we could do electronic message boards also.
Okay.
If they're not being used for something else, I think there's something now about, well, Main Street water replacement, I think they use the tool for that.
right? Oh, yeah.
A lot of people read them, though, they do. It's a good way to get everything out.
Do you wanna first support there a little bit about the,
It's been one of
spend
those
how
times.
much more than fill out?
Number 6, vote to recommend the Board of Selectmen allow the Board of Health to take over the rental of the Connex box at transfer station for mattress storage. Do we have a motion on it?
Oh, so in order to,
Oh,
these
okay.
mattresses, they need to be kept dry, so they have to be in a trailer that has doors closed. DEP had a grant to get one for free, but that expired June 30th, so, there's a possibility that grant may come around again next year, but we won't know until probably February, March, whether that grant's available.
Somebody asked about the cost in regards to the Board of Health being able to cover this. Do we have the funds for that?
I don't know.
Well,
Was it 145 a month?
It just went up to 179 a month.
so it's a rental fee, that Mr. Aguirre is talking about, and obviously if we can buy a trailer through DEP grants, then that would solve that problem. But I believe we have the money, although we were just informed today that several other prices have just gone up. So we are going to have to assess all that and how much that's gonna affect our dollars for the trash. So we've gotta look into it, but I believe we have enough to cover that rental fee for 6 months, so.
Wasn't there, which we don't have to pay because you already have them, an initial charge?
Yeah, it costs about $600 to get a container to town.
Right.
That's all been paid for already.
Right.
Because obviously I've been using them for the surplus auction. So we would just transfer the rental amount over to the Board of Health, which would be the 179. And those costs, just for clarification, edification, it's the drop off, the delivery, the pickup.
Okay.
So that's why it's so high.
And the cost just went up, is that, do we have some kind of like, how often do the
It's-
costs go up?
This is the first time I've seen
Oh,
it go
okay.
up since in 12 years, so,
Okay, well, that would make sense.
yeah.
I'm with the lucky ones.
So you believe you'll have the money to cover this?
I believe we will. Especially if we can go up with the fees for everything else, then that should offset the costs too, so we're gonna have more income coming in from the price of these things going up. Which is why the sooner we get the prices in effect, the better off we'll be.
Now, in the discussions with solid waste, has there been any discussion about creating an enterprise system?
In its infancy, it was just touched upon. So the solid waste committee is really a very comprehensive group of people. And one of the reasons why you don't see adjustments in all the fees is that the solid waste committee would like to see some POS data about what we're actually taking in there. And we're actually gonna be querying the Board of Health for some more intimate data on the costs of things for disposal. So we were comfortable with changing the entire fee structure. We were comfortable with changing what we did, which obviously is tabled now. But I'm sure it'll come back up for discussion in the future. So to answer your question directly, we are gonna look at every aspect of solid waste. But right now, we're trying to stop the bleeding, so to speak, with the things that we can change immediately. And then we're gonna do our data collection and delve more into the cost of things and whether or not it makes sense to go enterprise. That's on the table.
Is it unrealistic to have a goal for the spring meeting?
So depending on when the POS data can get up and running, I know that's only one aspect of it, that's transfer station operations, but it's a part of it, and it has the most impact on taxpayers. Well, not most, equally as much. We feel that we need at least 6 months of data for that, so I don't know when the POS will be up and running. I'm gonna say it's gonna take 2 or 3 months to do that.
I thought we had determined it was gonna be about close to 6 months to
Right,
actually
exactly,
get it up and running.
exactly, right.
You know, the 6 months for the collected data.
Right. Will there be more in-depth discussion about possibility of enterprise by the spring town meeting, the annual town meeting? Absolutely, but I don't think there'll be a decision for the annual of 2023.
To enter or create an enterprise system, that would have to be determined by a town meeting, correct? Not by a board of select.
Right. Exactly, yeah. And you know, our contract with whomever our refuse hauler is comes into play because we've entered into multi-year contracts. So all that's gonna be taken into consideration. It's a complicated discussion, but we have a good group of people,
That's in the future.
yes.
Thank you.
But it'll be easier to sell an enterprise account
Right.
once we have data
Right.
that we can support it with.
I don't have the contract for the rental. Is that simply through
Those are all under my purview, so I would just simply have the Board of Health pay the invoice when it comes to my office. That's all we're looking for. I'm not looking for them to enter into a contract for a box. I'm already in contract with them on behalf of the town. I would just have the Board of Health pay for whatever the container is. Especially if it's only gonna be for 6 months and we might be getting a container through the grant anyway.
the Board of Health is good with that?
Yes.
Okay.
B, review, discuss, act, solid waste clerk.
Did you vote yet?
Oh, I'm sorry, did we vote?
No. Wait,
Motion yet?
I motion to recommend to the Board of Selectmen to allow the Board of Health to take over the rental of the, what is that, Connex, is that?
Yeah,
Box
Connex.
at transfer station for mattress storage.
I second that. Can I have a vote, please?
Aye.
I also vote aye, motion passes. To recommend the Board of Selectmen allow the Board of Health to take over the rental of the Connex box at transfer station for mattress storage.
Thank you. With that being said, I will entertain a motion to approve the Board of Health recommendation to take over the Connex rental fee administration.
You make that motion.
All hands.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made second, all those in favor?
Mr. Chairman, tonight.
Chairman Hollis, aye. It passes, thank you.
And just for the record, one of the things the solid waste committee is kicking around is getting a second attendant there on Saturdays. It's very busy on Saturdays, and we're now gonna have the main attendant having to load mattresses and inspect them. We're gonna need the body, so that's something we're also kicking around, obviously not until next fiscal year, but it's something that is on the table, or on discussions, I guess I should say.
Those boxes also make it, that it may be more busy. I mean, you don't actually have to do things with the folks that are bringing the clothing stuff, but you do have to let them in and make sure that they're bringing them to.
Yes, somebody still has to watch all the vehicles come in and
Okay.
inspect them, and it will be faster with the point of sale instead of handwriting on everything. But you still can't be 200 feet apart.
Yeah.
And that'll help, to load a mattress in could take a few minutes. So, yeah, especially if it's raining, you know, you gotta keep the door closed all day long, so.
Now, is Mr. Lawrence working Wednesday and Fridays? I mean,
And
Saturdays?
Saturdays, yes.
Saturdays.
Yes, he is.
Does the Board of Health have any further business?
Yes, we have one more. Just review, discuss, act, solid waste clerk.
So the solid waste committee, obviously it's a committee, we have a chairman, but we currently don't have anybody acting as the clerk for the committee. So it's somebody to take minutes from the meeting, and when we voted these 7 things, to write letters to the selectmen, to let them, or to the Board of Health, saying this is what we recommended. Obviously taking minutes, being the clerk, the chairman's been posting the agendas, but we don't have a clerk, and at the last meeting, nobody stepped up, so it was a matter of it's a subcommittee of the Board of Health, so that's why it's here. However, yesterday, Mike Nolan said he would be the clerk of the committee, so he'll do all the minutes.
Okay. So we don't need
So we
to
don't
take,
need to discuss it.
we don't need to take a vote.
Well, unless the board wants to do something other than allow Mr. Nolan
Yeah,
to do.
that's some, I mean, that was very, very good of him to volunteer. We all,
To volunteer, Karen.
I don't know, did he volunteer you, Karen?
Well, Leanne does his capital outlay, so I'm thinking about putting on my table.
Yeah. Okay, so, I guess we're all set for adjournment.
Okay.
And our motion,
I motion to adjourn.
and I second that. Do you want to vote?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Also, to adjournment.
No, I don't.
I will entertain a motion for the Board of Selectmen to adjourn.
I'll make that motion. Second.
Motion made second. All those in favor, Mr. Pacheco?
Aye.
Mr. Karen? And the vote is an aye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So the next meeting will be Thursday, November 17th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.